I am at the Albertina in Vienna, Austria. This museum is home to a historic collection of over 1 million prints and drawings, though of course they only display a tiny fraction of these light-sensitive artifacts. During my visit to the Albertina, there were 2 excellent special exhibitions based on their print collections, so that is what we are going to explore in this video. The primary exhibit is called Dürer, Munch and Miró, the great masters of printmaking. This exhibition follows the entire history of printmaking in Europe and displays the authentic prints of many important artists throughout history. The earliest prints are woodcuts portraying Christian subjects. The Holy Family here is one of the oldest surviving woodcuts in Europe from around 1430. Here is a copper engraving by Martin Chagall, the largest engraving produced in the 15th century. By this time, images had become a widely traded commodity for the first time in history thanks to printmaking. This is the censer by Martin Chagall. He came from a family of goldsmiths, and it shows in this highly detailed censer, in which incense would be burned at church. This is an early woodcut of the great Albrecht Dürer, depicting the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse from 1497. He made this for his book of Revelation, which was illustrated with 16 woodcuts of the apocalypse. Here is Dürer's woodcut of Saint Michael fighting the dragon from the Apocalypse series. And this is the Babylonian Whore. Dürer operated a small self-managed print shop for luxurious printed volumes. He had an efficient distribution network that made his work quite famous. This is the large cannon by Albrecht Dürer, showing his fascination with the free movement of the etching needle. Here are Dürer's engravings of Adam and Eve. These are obviously 2 different phases, and it shows how the engravings were constantly checked by printing trial proofs, so that corrections and additions could be added. This is the Knight, Death, and Devil, another amazing Dürer engraving from 1513. This was the earliest of Dürer's 3 master engravings. Here is the second of the 3 master engravings of Dürer. This one depicting St. Jerome in his study. The rendering of the stone surfaces and grain of the wooden fixtures are extremely delicate. That is amazing. These are engravings of Dürer portraying a rhinoceros. They were for a pamphlet he made about the sensational arrival of an Indian rhinoceros to Lisbon in 1515. That poor rhino later drowned off the coast of Italy. Here is an Albrecht Dürer woodcut of the flight into Egypt, right next to a chiaroscuro woodcut of the same subject by Lucas Cranach the Elder. In chiaroscuro woodcuts, a fully formed image often only occurs as a result of the interplay between the color tone blocks and the line blocks. But seriously, Dürer was talented. This is an original print by Pieter Brueghel the Elder called The Rabbit Hunt from 1560. An Antwerp-based publishing house run by Hieronymus Koch worked with Brueghel by taking his original prints and then transposing them onto copper plates, which led to Brueghel's works being popularized and also provided him a steady source of revenue. That one is called The Alchemist. The first Brueghel prints published by Koch were landscapes, such as this alpine scene which Brueghel made after his tour of Italy. These are prints of Andrea Mantegna, the most important Italian engraver of the 15th century. This is the Battle of the Sea Gods. Mantegna's illustrations were inspired by classical models, but he made his own unique and detailed style. Jacopo de Barbari spent 3 years working on this detailed bird's eye view of Venice, which was completed in 1500. This is the Veil of Saint Veronica, the masterpiece of Claude Mellon. This one is fascinating, as he created it using one single spiral line, starting at the tip of Christ's nose, then going out from there. That is so awesome. Here's a chiaroscuro woodcut, created by printing 2 or more wooden blocks on top of each other. One of them is reversed solely for the line drawing. Here is a display of 2 of the 8 known printing states of Rembrandt's monumental dry point etching, Ecce Homo. These display Rembrandt's appetite for experimentation, as he tried to emphasize the soft and delicate effect of the dry point lines with various degrees of wiping, using different amounts of ink to create a range of effects. And here are two different dry point printing states of the Three Crosses from 1653 by Rembrandt. Clearly, dramatic lighting effects are just as essential in these etchings as they were in Rembrandt's paintings. This one is the Annunciation of the Shepherds. Rembrandt found a deep personal means of expression in etchings at a young age. He would draw directly onto copper plates and do a lot of experimentation with a burin or dry point. Here is an etching Rembrandt self-portrait from 1639. I have seen many of his scores of self-portraits, but never any of his etching self-portraits, of which there are also plenty. This is a self-portrait drawing at a window from 1648. Here is another Rembrandt engraving. It's a half-nude. Here's a panoramic landscape etching by Rembrandt called The Three Trees. And this is a windmill created by Rembrandt in 1641. This is an etching by Francesco de Goya, titled Dreadful Events in the Front Rows of the Ring at Madrid. Goya created all sorts of these weird and wonderful capricos. These works, while quite entertaining, do depict real social ills from his era, which he portrays through these grotesque figures. This one is titled A Heroic Feat with Dead Men. Here's another etching from his satirical series Los Desastres de la Guerra, titled This Is Worse. This one is called On Account of a Knife, in which he tried to depict the brutality and violence the Spanish people suffered as they rebelled against French occupation between 1808 and 1814. These are scenes from Goya's series Los Disparates, or Follies, which was published long after his death. They are bizarre and surreal scenes that dismiss established values and notions of morality as bigotry and hypocrisy. This is the Simpleton from Los Proverbios. There is also a collection of prints from the Marriage a la Mode series by William Hogarth, one of the most important Enlightenment era artists. These prints depict stages of a marriage of convenience between the daughter of an ambitious businessman and son of an impoverished aristocrat. Of course, their hopes for social advancements are disastrous, as he ends up going to the gallows for the murder of his wife's lover, while she poisons herself. Here are some etchings of Venice by Canaletto. This is the Drawbridge from 1761 by Giovanni Battista Piranesi. And this is the Smoking Fire by Piranesi. These are fascinating early industrial illustrations from the 1760s. This is Carl Friedrich Schinkel's lithograph of a Gothic church behind trees. This was inspired by Goethe's essay on German architecture, which increased public awareness of Gothic architecture, and from there it became an expression of Germanness during the Romantic era. This is the Barricade, a lithograph made by Edvard Manet during the 1871 Commune in Paris. And this is pretty neat to see. Manet's lithograph of the execution of Maximilian from 1867. He made a big oil painting of the execution that looked just like this, in which he denounced the role played by French troops in the execution of the Habsburg Archduke by Mexican revolutionary forces. However, he was banned from publishing the painting and this lithograph in France. The painting was partially destroyed, and the printing stone was destroyed. These are some great color lithograph posters by Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, including his advertisement for the Moulin Rouge, featuring the famous dancer La Goulou. And there's another famous Montmartre cabaret dancer, Jane Averill. And this is Aristide Bruant at his cabaret. The cabaret singer was one of Toulouse-Lautrec's first friends in Montmartre. That is an authentic poster for the Chat Noir Cabaret, a true Parisian icon. Here are some more color lithographs of Toulouse-Lautrec. He came to view lithographs as equal to painting in terms of its expressive potential. Here is the Clowness of the Moulin Rouge, in which he definitely draws inspiration from Japanese woodcuts. This is Edvard Munch's Madonna from 1895. He explored the theme of the Madonna in depth. He painted 5 versions, and also made this color as well as a black and white lithograph. It's pretty interesting because he combined the archetypes of the femme fragile with the femme fatale. This is a self-portrait with skeleton arm by Munch, which he made in 1895. He began experimenting with printmaking in 1894, so this is an early one. It suggests that death is present in the midst of his life, but he was just 32 at the time. This is an interesting one by Munch. The Kiss 4. He uses characteristics of different types of paper, and the grain of the wood is a very unique design element. This 1902 color woodcut likely inspired Gustav Klimt's Kiss. Here's a woodcut and lithography print titled Girls on a Pier from 1918 by Munch. He did a full-scale painting version of this. Here's a really interesting and iconic work by Munch, a color lithograph of Anxiety from 1896. Creepy. This is a color woodcut cityscape of Frankfurt by Ludwig Heinrich Jungnickel, created in 1914. Here is a woman with umbrella by the Nabi Group artist Pierre Bernard from 1894. And these are some more lithographs by Pierre Bernard as well as Edvard Villard. This is an interior with pink wallpaper by Villard, using sharply contrasting colors. This woodcut by Franz Marc depicts his iconic blue horses resting. That's awesome. And this is another color woodcut called Genesis 2 by Marc, who was an integral part of the Blaureiter group. The cushion here is Maximilian Kruse-Veil's most significant work. It is grounded in the tradition of the symbolism movement, and the pose of this woman, the artist's wife, displays her mental anguish. Here are excellent color woodcuts of Exotic Birds by Jungnickel. This is a poster made by Oskar Kokoschka for the 1908 Kunstschau exhibition, which had a space entirely dedicated to Art Nouveau poster art. On the left is a poster made by Kokoschka for Der Sturm magazine in 1911. And next to it is a color woodcut poster for an exhibition of the Brueghel group by Ernst Ludwig Kirchner from 1910. This is an early zinc etching by Paul Klee from 1904. And this is the Dreaming Virgin by Klee. He began exploring printmaking techniques around 1902 and became particularly fond of zinc etching. This is an etching of grotesque women by the Viennese artist Ernst Fuchs, who passed away in the past decade. This is A Woman with Dead Child by Käthe Kollwitz from 1903, from her series titled War, which was about the German Peasants' War of the 16th century. Here are some prints by Max Beckmann, including a dry point self-portrait and a bowler hat on the right. This is a large woodcut by Henri Matisse from 1906. And Matisse made this young student mask in the 50s. These are expressionist woodcuts by Carl Schmidt-Rottluff. This is a color woodcut self-portrait by Erich Heckel, a founding member of the Brueghel Collective. He produced a large portfolio of over 1,000 print works. Here is a print from Dead Souls, a folkloric etching in dry point scene by Marc Chagall produced in the 1920s. And there are the painters from the Dead Souls series. This is an early outline of Meal in the Tavern by Chagall. And here's yet another scene from Dead Souls. This is a Russian Woman by Emil Nolde from 1913. And here's another Nolde woodcut, which displays his primitivist inspiration. This is a scene by Joan Miró. He turned to printmaking in the 1930s well after he had established his characteristic style, and produced all sorts of great lithographs and lino cuts of his colorful dreamlike visions. He made this untitled lino cut for the art magazine 20th Century's Christmas special in 1938. And this is a lithograph by David Hockney from 1979. So that was a surprisingly fantastic exhibit. I definitely have a newfound appreciation and interest in engravings and prints. Many of the, again, authentic works in this exhibit were absolutely phenomenal, and I learned a lot. But there is also a separate exhibit on Pieter Brueghel the Elder and his times. I kinda rushed through this one for the sake of time, but it had several authentic Brueghel drawings, as well as lots of other Flemish and Dutch prints and drawings from the 16th century. Here's a pen drawing by Pieter Brueghel the Elder's own hand, titled The Herder. This is a facsimile of a Hieronymus Bosch drawing. Brueghel was heavily inspired by his bizarre hybrid creatures and monsters. This is a famous drawing by Hieronymus Bosch called the Tree Man, depicting a hybrid tree man. This is awesome. Pieter Brueghel the Elder's Big Fish Eat Little Fish. That is just fantastic. This Brueghel drawing of spring was part of his incomplete 4 Seasons print series. This is Christ in Limbo by Brueghel. In this one, Adam, Eve, and the patriarchs of the Old Covenant walk towards Christ from the mouth of a monster head. And this is The Last Judgment, sketched out by Pieter Brueghel the Elder in 1558. In this self-portrait, Brueghel actually makes fun of the condition of art production in his time, with the dopey patron next to him. In this piece called Sloth, the sleeping Desidia, the female personification of Sloth, is surrounded by various sinful people. And this Brueghel is titled The Epileptics of Molenbeek, depicting an event that occurred annually on St. John's Day, when female epileptics were led over a bridge by musicians so that they may be released from their suffering for a year. That probably did not work. This is an interesting 1535 illustration of the old St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City that was replaced. This large Ecce Homo sheet by Jacques de Genisse is fantastic. Here's a 1582 panorama of Naples. And this is a 1564 view of the Alhambra in Granada. Well, those exhibitions were awesome! The Albertina does indeed have one of the best collections of prints and drawings in the entire world, so clearly they can put on some great and interesting shows. If you enjoyed this video, then you might want to see my other episodes on the Albertina, one featuring the primary modern art collection, as well as another one showcasing the special Picasso and Alex Katz exhibitions. Those videos are linked in the description. Along with that, I have all sorts of videos on Vienna museums and attractions, as well as hundreds featuring other locations across Europe and America. Also, please consider liking this video, sharing it, and subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching!